What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about Survivor Season 42. We are on episode 2. So my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and I feel like this was a great second episode. We got to see a lot more of like who people are in camp life, and so I was really happy with this episode. I like all of the people that we got to learn. I like that there was a little bit of strategy spice. It was all a very solid episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought this was such a fun episode. I thought it was funny how, like, at Tribal Council, Marya and Maryanne's names, the first, what, five letters are the same. So when they were like showing people writing down the other person's names, they could write out Mary or the whole Marya part, and then you wouldn't know, oh, who's it actually for. So that was really interesting, funny that both of them were on the chopping block at the same time, that they could tease us like that.
Especially because Marya doesn't, I think, that's not the way I've normally seen Marya spelled. So it was like especially serendipitous that Marya spelled her name in the way that it was like the same, like, first five letters as Maryanne. So.
Yeah, so going into some confessionals for the episode, Mike had 6 confessionals. He had the most this episode for one player, which I guess makes sense when we talk about him finding the idol, losing the idol, all of that jazz. For 0 confessionals this episode, we had Lydia and Roxroy, which I don't know, did you feel like you didn't see them this episode, Alyssa?
I feel like Lydia we got a lot of since she was the caller for her team in the challenge. I feel like Roxroy was the one, like, the only significant thing that happened to him was that he, like, slammed into one of the things and, like, hurt his balls. So I feel like definitely Lydia, maybe we didn't need to hear directly from, especially because, like, she was the winner of the challenge. Like, maybe we could have gotten something about, like, oh, it feels so good to be the winner of my team, of the challenge for my team. But I feel like it's not a bad thing necessarily that we didn't hear from her. Roxroy, I feel like, the fact that we didn't hear anything from him probably isn't good for his chances in the long term, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Like, they didn't necessarily feel invisible for getting 0 confessionals this episode. Both of their tribes didn't go to tribal, so I guess that makes sense. Lydia, like, we saw her a lot in the challenge as the caller. Roxroy, at the beginning of the episode, he is telling Drea to, like, not sit directly in the fire. So I was like, oh, we saw them, they weren't, like, totally invisible, not even standing in the background. But I thought that was interesting. Some stats there for total confessionals across episodes 1 and 2. Mike has 10, so he is the most confessional person so far with 2 episodes in. Second place is with 8 confessionals, 3-way tie between Tori, Maryanne, and Omer. And then the least is also a 3-way tie. They have 3 confessionals each, and it's Lydia, Roxroy, and Swati.
I feel like Mike's might be a little bit of a decoy just because he had like a pretty significant strategic event happen this episode. And so I feel like because he found the idol this episode, it's like pulling up his 2-episode average. Like, I can see him being a pretty significant character, but I don't think that he is going to be like the character of the season.
I agree. I think whoever finds the idols next week, which it might be a teaser, look like Maryanne might have found the idol on her team's camp. So I feel like that will pull her average up, and whoever finds the last one would also get a lot of confessionals because they have to read the clue, they have to read the phrase, and then if they're telling other people about the idol like we saw this episode, then they usually get a lot of screen time or talking time. And if they go back to the Shipwheel Island again, that will also get a lot of people more confessionals because they get a whole segment starring that person.
Yeah, just to themselves. So I think it'll be interesting to see who like balances out. I feel like the person of your list that I think is someone to watch just because he hasn't had a lot of like super big strategic moments would be Omer, because I feel like yeah, we got some stuff about him being a Muslim and we got him some stuff with like him and Jonathan being a duo, but I feel like he's definitely being fleshed out more as like a character than necessarily like a strategic person, just because it's not like he found an idol or went to the shipwreck island or anything. So I feel like he's one to watch out for.
Yeah, as a potential winner, you're thinking, because they're fleshing him out more as a like character person.
Possibly.
So yeah, but yeah, Mike, I feel like it's more like, oh, a fun character, goofy. Similar with Maryanne, getting a lot of screen time for going to the island last week, as well as just being like a great personality on the screen. It makes sense that she has a lot of confessionals. So we'll keep an eye out on this throughout the season. I find these numbers interesting and they could be enlightening in the future. But we start off this episode with a segment with Hi. We did get a lot of like personalized segments this episode where people got to share something about themselves, share their story, which was really cool to see. So we get to learn more about Hai and him being vegan. I thought this was like a really nice segment. So we see Chanel and Jenny, they find a little crab on the ground and then they call it ugly, but I was like, oh, it's so cute. They can keep it as a pet. And then we see the Green Tribe, they're all eating this crab, and then Hai is like sitting there in the background. And I thought it was a great scene because I feel like other times when people might be vegan or vegetarian or have different dietary restrictions, sometimes their team like makes fun of them for like not eating certain things. So I thought this was great that his tribe really like didn't make fun of him for being vegan, and they really like listened to him and let him talk about being vegan.
Yeah, and I like that he also like explained his thought process behind like, okay, I decided I'm going to eat the crab in the end, just because I feel like it could have been something that was like, I don't know, not made fun of necessarily, but not really like respected as
Yeah.
the difficult choice that it was. So, yeah.
I agree. Hai verbalized it really well, like being vegan and his values around like eating animals and stuff like that. And then talking about how not having rice this season really affects him. And I feel like it's really interesting because it seems like, oh, production and even viewers watching who doesn't like have that experience, they wouldn't even realize the impacts of having no rice for the people on the show, how it would impact them for people who don't eat fish or don't eat meat, things like that. And so I feel like there's like, you know, like a data bias there where, oh, if everyone who is creating the show, they don't have that experience. I just thought it was interesting how he brought that up. And I was like, yeah, you know, for me, I wouldn't even have even thought how no rice affects people with those different dietary things.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where we don't really think about the fact that like if someone is vegan, even on the normal season when they do have rice and stuff, that's still very difficult to do just because like they give you rice, but I feel like part of the expectation is that you're also going to be eating other things. So, yeah, props
And
to
you
people.
even Yeah, you even see that with the reward challenges. Like this week's reward, it was fishing gear. Like winning fishing gear is such a staple for Survivor. But when you think about it and what Hai was saying, oh, fishing gear, like, isn't really going to help people that don't eat fish, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the like challenge rewards that they do, the rewards are like, oh, you get a big steak or something like that. And again, that's not something that's really going to be helpful to people who are vegan. So
Yeah, so I thought it was really great how his team was supporting him rather than like making fun of him or questioning him, or like he was saying maybe voting him off because he would be a quote liability because of not eating that food. So I do wonder though how it'll impact his body, like eating meat and fish in the long run, because I have some friends who are vegan and then if they've like accidentally ate meat after like X number of years of being vegan, like they've said that their body like cannot process it because they haven't eaten that food in so long.
yeah, so hopefully nothing bad happens to him. That would make me sad. But it is something that I guess I wonder if he weighed that in his decision also, because that's something he probably thought about too.
Yeah, so another tribe scene that we saw was with Omer and being Muslim. I thought this was also a great scene where he's sharing his religion with his tribe. And this was also great. Like the other team members are also religious on this team, and they're talking about, hey, if you have any questions, like Jonathan about Christianity, like we'd love to chat about it. Omer says vice versa about about being Muslim. And so I thought this was great how like they were talking about religion, and similar to Hai being vegan, they weren't like, you know, poking fun at different things or not being accepting of one another.
I think it's also really interesting because Omar specifically talked about like, oh, if you see me like going out to like be by myself, it's not because I'm looking for an idol, it's because I'm going to pray. And I feel like those are some of the things that like we talked about. Like there are some things in Survivor that are like unspoken culture rules, and I feel like this is one of the reasons where like a lot of the Survivor players I think that we see do are like Christian, white Christian type people. And so I think it's interesting that we're getting this perspective, and then also how having a different like religion could affect your game in a very like meaningful way without people really meaning for it to. So
Yeah, I thought this was interesting also because preseason, we thought that this tribe could bond over religion. So it's cool to see it like actually play out on the episode and it for to be aired and stuff like that. And I guess going off of the point that you just said, I do wonder if people would use like certain things as strategy. So I would hate to see like, oh, people see Omer like going off alone when he's actually praying. And then they're like, like using that as a way to maybe vote him out when he's actually just like praying.
yeah, I think there's a lot of like questions when you like introduce these new cultural elements of like what is okay to use as an excuse and what isn't. Because yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
and so
it opens a lot of questions, I guess.
yeah, which could it would not be like okay, it'd be like very very just like dirty to see, very grimy.
Yeah.
But another cute part of this segment, we see Maryanne offering to weave a palm frond mat for Omer, which is very nice. No one else like volunteered to do anything, so it's really cool to see like Maryanne weave this mat and like did it so quickly. Like the next scene, oh, here it is for you.
Yeah, it's nice to see them like being supportive of each other, I guess.
Yeah. So we go to the Ika tribe and they have a potential girls' alliance forming. Drea goes to Tori and Swati saying, let's stick girls strong and then we can have a majority because they just voted out Zach. So it'd be 3-2 boys, girls there. And then she tells them about that she has an extra vote, which Alyssa, do you think this was a mistake?
I think it was a mistake just because like I don't know. I don't think it was necessary for her to tell them about her extra vote, and I think it's also one of those things where she might have just given them fodder to like vote her out. Like it wasn't something where like, oh, we will need an extra vote tonight in order to take control of the tribe or whatever. It was just like, I'm going to tell you about this. So
I agree. Like they already have a majority 3-2, so it's not like you were saying you don't need an extra vote to get the girls to come together. You already have the majority there. And then we see Swati go directly to Tori and saying, "Hey, Drea should be voted out next. She has that extra vote. Like that is dangerous." So I guess like because you haven't solidified a girls thing, last week we didn't necessarily see the three women as super tight as a like female alliance there. So it just seems a little bit dangerous because you don't have that connection yet to tell them that you have this advantage. It's going to put a target on your back.
it seems a little premature, I guess.
Yeah, like sure you voted together the first time, but it seems like there are some iffy things between the three, so it is sort of premature to tell them about something before you've voted together in the past, or maybe you shared secrets or something before. And to have an extra vote on day 5 so early, that could be very threatening, especially on a 5-person team. Having an extra vote is major.
Yeah. Especially, I feel like people are just like going blabbing about all their advantages despite saying that they weren't going to do that. So,
She kept the amulet secret, I guess. So, but if she gets voted out with the amulet and this extra vote, I guess it helps Lindsay and Hai, who have the other parts of the amulet.
it does.
But speaking of people telling people other things that maybe they shouldn't have, we see Mike find the Green Tribe idol. Mike, funny, he makes all of these jokes saying, hey, there should be a sign saying immunity idol placed right here. And apparently he needs one because he finds it and then he hides it and then he can't find it again. He misplaced it. And then in the preview for next week, it seems like he misplaced it again and doesn't know where it went. Like, it's sort of funny, but also like, what is going on?
The thing is, I feel like that exact thing would happen to me. So, like, I can't blame him because I feel like I would do the same thing where, like, he doesn't want to put it in his bag, which I guess is smart because that means that, like, no one can go through your bag and see, like, oh, Mike has the idol. But also, maybe put it someplace that has, like, an actual marker instead of, like, a fork in the path or something. Like, put down a, like, nice coconut or something. I don't know.
It's an honest mistake to have. Woods all look the same. So when you're out there in the forest, a tree looks like a tree. So unless you pick some funky looking tree, it's going to be hard to notice. But if you pick the like wildest looking tree, other people are going to look there. Maybe they'll accidentally come across your hidden idol. But I think like strategy wise, it would be interesting if an older person did this as strategy. Like, hey, I'm Mike. I'm an older dude with memory issues. Like, I'm the oldest man out here. Maybe he has some problems. And then he says, oh, yeah, I'm forgetful. I'm clumsy. I don't know where I left it. And so if he's playing as, hey, I'm forgetful or I'm a little bit not smart, that maybe could be good strategy. But if you go a little bit over the top with it and you keep losing things, then you'd be a liability. Like, can we trust him? Why is he so forgetful? But it'd be interesting if it were strategy. It doesn't seem like it is strategy.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing where it would be interesting if it were strategy, but it's not. So, oh, Mike.
Someone's got to do it. I think that'd be great strategy. But you can't go too over the top with it. You got to be like forgetful enough that people are like, oh, clumsy Mike, haha, don't need to worry about him. Not like, Mike's always losing things. We can't trust him.
I guess the question is, if you did legitimately forget where you put your idol, would production be like, sorry, you lost it now? Or would it be like you actually like get another idol or something?
Yeah, I wonder because the rule is like if you left your idol back at camp when there was like a tribe swap, they would get it for you and bring it to your new tribe if you got tribe swapped onto a new island. So I wonder if you lost it or like say you buried it near the water like we've seen some people do, if it got washed away, what would happen?
I guess we're never going to know unless Mike takes one for the team and tells us.
Yeah, he's got to lose it next episode. So, then we can learn this rule. I do wonder because in the preview for next week, we saw Daniel and Mike talking, and it was really quick. Like, Mike was saying, oh, I don't know where it is. I thought you had it, Daniel. And Daniel's like, no, I gave it back to you. So could you steal his idol like we saw, Shan voting people out to get their advantages last season, or even Shan and Ricard taking the idol out from under Genie? Could you, as Daniel, say, hey, no, like, if Mike loses it, can you steal it?
I feel like that's a no because it's still like taking the idol. So
yeah, I guess you'd have to vote him out and then have it rehidden. I don't know. But if Mike is like, here, Daniel, hold on to this. And then Daniel is like, yeah, Mike, I gave it back to you, but I didn't actually give it back to you. And then Mike is like, I don't know where I put it. Then technically it's Daniel's if Mike gave it to Daniel and then he just lies about never giving it back, right?
I don't know. Because I guess I've always found the whole like giving someone an idol temporarily thing kind of confusing because it's like, whose idol is it technically in that case?
So. I guess you'd have to vote Mike out while you're in possession of it, and then it's yours. Because, like, if you're, like last season, if you were Shan and JD lets Shan hold the advantage. If you're Shan, could you just say, no, I'm not giving it back to you. It's mine now. Technically, like, JD gave it to you to hold. You could be, like, super cutthroat and be like, nah, I'm not giving it back. Or you can vote them out and also be cutthroat and steal their stuff.
I guess it just depends.
We gotta see it. I want to see Daniel do that. Steal it out from under him.
I'm sure that someone somewhere has like asked production what the like status of it is because I feel like they have to be very explicit with things like that. Otherwise, people get crazy.
Yeah. So the phrase for Mike is, there is such grace in the game of soccer, it makes me cry. Mike says he hates soccer, so this will be a fun one if and when Mike ever says this phrase. This phrase is so easy compared to like potatoes, butterflies, goats, broccoli. There's so many ways you could easily incorporate soccer into talking on the mat with Jeff. So many ways.
My question is, has Mike told people how much he hates soccer? Because I feel like that's where things could get spicy. Because it's like, if Mike has told people, like, oh no, I hate soccer, I think soccer is the dumbest thing ever, and then he suddenly is like, oh, soccer is the greatest game on earth, like, do you think that, like, people on his tribe would call his bluff? Like, would they be like, Mike, what are you saying? You told me yesterday that you think soccer is dumb.
Mike with the forgetful act, he could be like, nope, I forget I've ever told you that. I've never said that. But yeah. I don't know. I feel like that, I don't know, would that come up in daily conversation? He said it in a confessional saying, oh, for like the teams that he coaches, he tells them that soccer isn't a real sport and things like that. But even it would maybe raise flags for his own team. But he's told like half the tribe the phrase and what this idol is. So for the people that he's never met on the other two teams, like the people that don't know the phrases wouldn't really question it.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's more like the people on his own tribe. And then also, like, I feel like that is something that would come up on your tribe because people talk about, like, their day-to-day lives. So
I guess I'm like, just, yeah, you know, talking about soccer is so common, so you could easily bring it up with Jeff. You're not really talking about butterflies and dead relatives with your camp, really, so it makes you look more weird. But Mike saying, yeah, such grace in the game of soccer, it makes me cry. Oh, this challenge reminds me of soccer. There. Easy segue. Not weird. Yeah, like, versus hee butterflies, goats, like, it's like Mike isn't going to look weird if he says stuff about soccer on the mat.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe they adjusted because they thought it was too weird last time.
We need a harder phrase. This is grace in the game of soccer. Like, you can just bring up Ethan Zahn and be like, yeah, he's soccer. Grace in the game of soccer. I'm like, we need a harder one to make it more funny.
Yeah.
But Mike tells Jenny and Daniel about this idol. Last week in the episode, we heard about the three sets of two duos on this team, with Mike and Jenny as a duo, Daniel and Chanel as a duo, and Hai and Lydia as a duo. Similar to Drea giving the girls on the blue team all of the information about the extra vote, I feel like Mike gave Daniel too much information. He let Daniel read that entire clue, read the entire thing, and with a new advantage, these people have never seen a three-way shared phrase idol before. Showing that thing to Daniel, giving him the entire clue and all of the rules and receipts was way too much, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely would have been better to just be like, hey, I found something. Especially because Daniel then goes on and uses what he read, which is that, like, Mike doesn't have a vote anymore, to, like, go and strategize against him. Like, I feel like if I'm Mike, I don't want to give people power against me. And he totally did that when he, like, basically gave Daniel the whole thing. So
yeah. Daniel's super smart. He goes and tells Chanel about the idol. So what, 4 people on this team know about the idol? Maybe Hai and Lydia know, but right now they're seemingly left out of the loop. 4 out of 6 on this team. So it's another public idol. Like we said last season, it's not a 3-way shared idol. It's literally like everyone on the season will know, unless you're super, super out of the loop. Then basically everyone will know what's up. And these are public idols. And Daniel said it in confessional. He said, I have all the information without any of the penalties. And he's 100% right. Daniel is in a great spot right now because he can use this information against Mike if he does want to vote Mike out. But he knows that Mike, like, has no vote. So basically, you're going to keep him, similar to Xander last season. You're going to keep him around because with no vote, you effectively, like, can't do anything.
Yeah. So it's like, it's also, whenever you want to vote Mike out, you can very easily do it just because he's kind of sitting there as a sitting duck. It's hard to like gather people on your side if you're like, and by the way, I can't vote.
Yeah. He's like a useless alliance member because they could have, like, he has his voice, but if you don't have a vote, you don't even, like, you can't even use the shot in the dark because you don't have a vote to give up. So he's like really just there having a voice and telling people his ideas and what to do. But if he doesn't get a vote soon, it's smart to keep him around until maybe the idol gets activated, or like we heard Daniel saying, let's make Mike never say the phrase and then the idols never get activated. We wondered this last season, like, what if you never say these phrases and you purposefully don't say it to prevent two other people from getting the idol? I would be interested to see like how that plays out.
Yeah, though I do wish it was more Mike's idea and less Daniel's idea, because it just feels kind of skeezy when Daniel's like, oh, I want to make sure that Mike never says it.
Yeah, I guess it's better for Mike to be kept in and to be sort of bamboozled by other people to make the merge, rather than like if you're Brad and then you get voted out with no vote and this clue in your pocket and then the idol just gets re-hidden for other people to find. I feel like you'd rather be in the game rather than voted out there. But I feel like on this tribe, if this team goes to tribal council, Chanel and Daniel would be able to control the vote. Like they could either link up with Jenny and Mike and then still be a 3-2 against Hai and Lydia, or they can go and link up with Hai and Lydia and then they vote out Jenny because Jenny and Mike are a duo on that team. Maybe they want to like cut Mike's people off and then they vote out Jenny because of that, which I'll be so sad about.
Yeah. I think Jenny is interesting because she's like kind of more of a character than a strategic person, kind of like Omar. But I don't know. That's also harder to say because her tribe hasn't gone to tribal council yet, right?
Nope. So they got all 6 peoples.
So
it'll be interesting. Hopefully, I guess they don't. This tribe's got a lot of fun people on it. So we see Omar and Jonathan as a duo. They say how they're so different. And then Jonathan is making them like friendship bracelets or necklaces. They look really cool from like the shots that those are in. They say that the brain shield and the meat shield, and Jonathan says that together combined, they make the perfect human. It was a cute segment. They say it's the odd couple.
yeah, I really enjoy like dynamics like that where I feel like we never would have guessed Omar and Jonathan would be partners, but it's like gonna be fun and funky fresh.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like preseason, like we were saying last week, a lot of people underestimated or maybe didn't like Jonathan's prospects on the season, but Jonathan has pleasantly surprised a lot of people. So it's cool to see them connect because they are so different, and like that's what Survivor is all about. And we also see Jonathan say that he and Lindsay are close and then him and Omar are close. He says he's not as close to Marya, which I was like, uh-oh, is this tribe going to tribal?
Yeah, I feel like they definitely foreshadowed a lot of people's like relationships with one another and like who knows whom. So I definitely also got the vibes that they were going to tribal.
Yeah, and then we see Marya share her story about her brother who was a nurse, and then he was the first nurse to pass away due to COVID back in 2020. It's such a sad story, and even in the exit interviews that she's done, she says she hasn't or like had that closure yet. She didn't get to bury the necklace out on the island, and she didn't get to bury the necklace at Ponderosa. She said that she didn't feel right, I guess, to bury it at Ponderosa, so she still has it. So it's a really, really sad story all around.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna ask about, just because like it felt like she told us all about the necklace, and then like we didn't see anything about the necklace, and she got voted out, and so it made me kind of sad.
Yeah, especially in her exit interview with Rob, she was saying like her and Omar were close, and then she asked Omar to like basically give her a heads up if she were to be the one to go, so like she could say her piece and like maybe potentially bury the necklace and things like that. So it's sort of sucky, like I guess her team would blindside her, which it makes sense. You don't want her to play the shot in the dark and stuff like that, but then she also has this personal story of like why she would have wanted a heads up.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where she played the shot in the dark anyway. So it's kind of like, couldn't you have told her anyway? But I don't know.
Yeah. So we get to the immunity challenge. And I think the best part of the episode was when Maryanne, the whole reaction to Zach was voted out at the last tribal council. Maryanne is like, oh my gosh. And then someone says, oh no, your crush was voted out. I thought this was so funny and so relatable. Like, you're probably bored on the island. You would be looking at the other teams. And like, I would find all the hotties on the other tribes and be like making up scenarios in my head too.
My favorite thing was when Maryanne was just like telling everyone, like, he is exactly my type of white boy. Like, do you think that Zach like watched this and then was like, hey, hit me up? Or like Zach must have heard about this. So what was his reaction? So yeah.
It seems like they're all playing into it. Like on Twitter, Zach and Maryanne, they like switched last names. So Zach's Twitter is now with Maryanne's last name, and Maryanne's Twitter is with Zach's last name. That tweet I sent you from Swati saying, like, should Zach date me or Maryanne? Like, Swati's putting her hat in the ring of who can date Zach. On Instagram, Zach posted a Photoshop picture of him and Maryanne where Zach's face is on Boston Rob's face from the All Stars finale, and then Maryanne is on Amber's face, and then instead of I Heart Rob on the shirt, it says I Heart Zach. So it seems like they're fun.
They're taking it really far, and I love that. So,
which I'm like, if you were Zach being voted out first, it was literally talked about so much this episode. He got the scene at the beginning with Romeo being sad. Oh, my skinny alliance has been voted out. He got talked about here at the immunity challenge. And then he also got talked about at tribal council. I feel like that's the best case scenario for a pre-merge person, or even a person that's the first boot. Like, to be involved in this like meme now, you're going to be remembered as someone that is memorable first boot versus, oh, all of the random people that get voted out pre-merge that nobody really remembers. So this is good for Zach because then it increases his chances of being invited back because people will remember him now.
Yeah, Zach got more visibility this episode than Roxroy did, so
oh my gosh, yeah. Maryanne's crush, that's just so relatable. You can find love out there too.
I thought it was interesting because they talked about it more than once. Like, it wasn't just like a haha funny thing where Zach was voted out, and they also talked about it like when like they went to tribal council as like kind of like, oh, Maryanne is just another human type thing. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's the new Billy and Candace of like falling in love with someone in another tribe without like actually like ever meeting them. If Maryanne gets voted out and is sent to Ponderosa, I would love to see. They need to have a Ponderosa videos for the pre-merge people, because if they have a romance blossom there, I'm like, that's so interesting. That's fun.
Yeah, that's more fun than just like random stuff. But yeah, I was surprised no one referenced like Candace from Raro Tribe, just because I feel like a lot of the people are super fans, so they must have been thinking that.
Zach would have said it. It's a shame.
Zach
I like him, or maybe Daniel would have too, making the Stephanie LaGrossa like mention. I feel like Zach, Daniel, they should have said it. Jeff should have said it. Someone should have said it to just bring it full circle.
Yeah. But no one did, so we cry.
Alas, we'll see how this unfolds, I guess. If it gets brought up next week again, I'm like, what the heck? Why does this keep getting brought up? So it was fun for this episode, though.
Mm-hmm.
But this immunity challenge, it's a blindfold challenge. You have to go and collect items, do a blindfolded puzzle. Very dangerous, many ouchies like we've seen. A fun challenge. It was really stressful, honestly, because it was so close at the end. I was like, oh my gosh, on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, it was really close at the end, and I wonder how much of that was like actually them being close and how much of it was manufactured. But either way, it was fun. And I guess also it's better when challenges are super close like that, because then you don't have one person to blame where you're like, oh, it was totally like Jonathan's fault because he was the caller and so we were late. It was kind of just like, oh, we were coincidentally like 3 seconds behind or whatever.
Yeah, I guess so. I would say like Jonathan for me was an odd choice as a caller. Like personally, his voice is so low, it's hard to hear just regularly because it's like such a deep register. So then when he was screaming, I was like, I honestly can't hear it over, oh, Jeff talking, other people screaming and everything. So I was like, I wonder how that lower register voice works when you're like screaming loudly, because for me, it got toned out by like all of the other people on the screen talking.
I wonder if part of that is, though, intentionally trying to have a different register than the other callers, because Lydia was the caller for her team, and then who was the other caller?
Drea.
Drea. So they both have like higher pitched voices, and so like maybe if you're really like struggling, you can like tune in more to like the lower pitch voice. Like it's more of a contrast, even if it's not as loud. But I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's like more different would be the thing. Like, oh, tune into the voice that is more different than the others, because you could say, oh, maybe Drea and Lydia's voices sort of blend, especially if you're far away. It might be hard to tell those apart versus Jonathan is so deep, it's so low. Like, you should be able to like tune your ears to be able to hear that, maybe over the others. I don't know. For me personally, I'm like, I cannot hear anything that he's saying. It's like garbled, like he's speaking underwater or something. It was just so blurry sounding.
Yeah, I don't know for sure though.
Yeah. And from what you were saying, I felt like the puzzle at the end was where the orange team, where Jonathan really lost it, because orange and blue were so far ahead. We saw Lydia like not even have their puzzle pieces back to be able to blindfold walk everyone to the puzzle, where Jonathan and Drea's teams are both already at the puzzles already. So I don't know. Jonathan, like we saw last episode, not good at puzzles. It was an interesting choice to have him as the caller, but also, the caller has to do the puzzle.
Yeah, I wonder if they maybe just didn't think about that when they thought about like, oh, who is going to be the caller? Like maybe they don't think about like the puzzle.
Yeah, maybe. Him describing the puzzle as a pizza, I'm like, yo, does that I felt like that wasn't
like
helpful. Yeah, I'm like, if you're telling blindfolded people how to do a puzzle, you need to describe things more spatially. If you said pizza puzzle, I would think, oh, it's triangle pieces and they're like in a circle and you're putting triangles together. I felt like, if this is a circular puzzle, you would say, hey, there's a big circle puzzle piece in the center, and then there's little half circles surrounding the big circle piece in the center, and they're creating like rings or a spiral, like a moon shape, not a pizza shape. A pizza's only the circle part.
Yeah, I would not have said pizza. So
yeah, maybe for a reward challenge, they'll win pizza. And then the puzzle can be a pizza. But
yeah.
It's okay. Jonathan can just win everything else for his team like last week. They just need more like brute strength challenges where he can carry everyone on his back.
Yeah.
But good for Lydia. Yeah, good for Lydia. She like literally beasted that puzzle from being so far behind. Like, that's amazing. This is a hero challenge. I would never volunteer to be the caller. Like, you don't want that stress on your life, but good for Lydia for being the hero.
I wonder how they chose Lydia. Like, I wonder if part of it is because like she's a waitress / aspiring actress. So like maybe she has a really strong voice. So
yeah, maybe from her music festival experience, she's like had to scream to find friends that are lost in the crowd. I feel like that could be a good comparison. Yeah, that's interesting. But Green Tribe wins. So Lydia's team, Blue Tribe, Drea's team comes in second. Orange, Jonathan as the caller comes in last. So Orange Tribe goes to Tribal Council. With this, I would really want to know more reasoning behind why they voted Marya out, honestly, because low-key from the episode, it felt like Maryanne might have been the person to go home here, because in the episode we kept on hearing people say Marya would be more loyal, she's older, she's more controlled, versus Maryanne is younger, she's high energy, she might be more frazzled or paranoid. So it seemed like from what everyone was saying on the beach that you would keep Marya here and vote out Maryanne. So I want some more information.
I feel like part of it might be the fact that Marya is more like the solid, dependable type. Like she's harder to manipulate. Whereas Maryanne, all you have to do is like appeal to her paranoia. and then it'll be like you can kind of manipulate her because she is like more paranoid and stuff like that. So
I guess it could be the age thing. I was also seeing Maryanne as more of like a leader type, like she would be someone that would have ideas and want to sway votes, versus Marya seems more like a follower type. So that would be a reason to keep Marya over Maryanne.
yeah.
But it could be from the challenges, that aspect as well. Marya in the exit interviews was saying that she wasn't even sure why she was voted out, and was saying maybe it's because of her age, maybe it's because of like she's less challenge as good as challenges, less physical than Maryanne. Yeah. So that could be part of it. We see Maryanne doing a lot around camp. She was chopping wood, weaving, palm fronds, stuff like that. So that could be a reason. Maryanne's upbeat energy, keeping her around. And low key, I feel like the team could have been afraid of Maryanne having an idol or something from Shipwheel Island. Like they don't know what advantage she could have won coming back from that trip last week. And she was caught looking for idols this episode. Maybe people were afraid to put votes on her because maybe she got something super powerful at the island, or she found something this episode.
I also wonder, like, people kept saying that, like, oh, Maryanne's energy is, like, annoying. I'm not sure I can deal with that for however many days. But I also wonder if maybe that's one of those things where, like, you want someone who's very positive on your team. You want someone who's, like, easy to talk to and be around, you know?
Yeah, it's sort of like a good thing and a bad thing, because I guess, when you're not sleeping, when you're tired, if someone is go, go, go all the time, like Lindsay was saying, it could become a lot when you want to like be introverted or not talk to anyone. But also on the other hand, I agree. It's like if you have that Maryanne energy around camp, even if you feel like poo poo, like she's going to bring up your spirits. She seems like someone that could rally a team together, even if they're having the crappiest day after going to tribal, after voting someone out. She seems like someone that would be able to be like, look at the bright side. Even though we lost this challenge, tomorrow's a new day. We are going to do great things and win this next challenge, like rallying the team together.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it could
Maybe.
even be that like, the team themselves couldn't articulate why exactly they voted the way that they voted. So,
Yeah, could just be vibes on a 5-person team already. Could be the Canadian connection between Omer and Maryanne being strong and powerful as well, which Maryanne seems to find the idol in the next episode. So, not a good choice for everyone else if their tribe goes to tribal council again.
I mean, maybe Mariah would have found it if Maryanne got voted out. So,
That's true. So it'll be interesting, because then if Maryanne does actually find it, as the preview suggests, Maryanne would have 2 things. Drea has 2 things, and Mike has 1 thing, and Hai has 1 thing, and Lindsay has 1 thing. So it'll be interesting to see like how many things people can collect.
yeah. I just hope it doesn't become an advantage get in, but I also feel like it's going to, knowing what we know. So,
Too many things already, Alyssa. 3 idols,
yeah.
3 amulets, 2 extra votes. Like, oh my gosh, so many things.
Yeah, it's a lot of things.
So, speaking of things, Marya plays her shot in the dark. She plays it correctly. All the votes were going to her. So, this is twice in 2 weeks, which I thought was fascinating. Last week, we saw Zach play it. This week, we see Marya play it. And last season, we only saw one person in Sydney play it. So, we're 2 for 2 this week. I wonder if someone next week will play it as well.
I just think it's interesting because they talked about, like, oh, you need to be really good at making sure the person is comfortable so that you don't play their shot in the dark. But they, like, obviously have been failing at doing that. If, so far everyone who has gone home has known they were going home, at least enough to play the shot in the dark.
I also thought it was weird. Last week we saw Zach read the parchment paper in his seat, remember? And then Sydney read it in her seat last season too. This week, Jeff is like, Marya, give me the paper. And then Jeff reads it. Oh, safe or not safe. I truly thought that it was going to be a safety scroll, because why is Jeff reading it if Zach read it on his own last week? I was like, they're trying to trick us.
I wonder if part of it is just because they had already done it once, and so they wanted to basically make it different from the other time that it had happened this season. But I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I was like, it's interesting that they switch it up after already doing it once in the same season. It's like, okay, if you switch it up between seasons, like Sydney read it last season, but this season, no, Jeff is going to read it. Sure, maybe something happened with Zach reading it last week that they were like, no, Jeff needs to read it now.
Maybe he mucked up reading it.
Yeah, the contestant isn't allowed to read it anymore. Maybe like Zach didn't show it to the camera, or like he read it first or didn't have a good reaction or something. Like they want the facial reactions of people, and maybe Jeff reading it would get more of a like, oh my God kind of thing for TV.
Yeah, so we'll never know, I guess, unless someone wants to tell us why.
Alas, the questions that we have, but it would be interesting. Like, I feel like the shot in the dark is so hard to strategize around, because if you're on the bottom, so say you're Maryanne and you think that you're also going to be getting votes this episode, like, it's dangerous, because if Maryanne were to write down someone else's name as a safeguard, so if Marya did get safety, all of those votes don't count. There's 0 votes cast because everyone casted it for Marya to go. So if she's safe, they vote again. That would be bad for Maryanne, because then she would be the person to go as the person with the votes on the revote. So if you're like the second lowest person here, would you put a vote on someone else? So say Maryanne wrote down like Jonathan or something. So if in the case that Marya is safe from the shot in the dark, Jonathan would go home. There is no revote. But then I feel like you piss so many people off if the safety shot in the dark doesn't work, because then Jonathan is like, WTF, Maryanne, why'd you put my name down? Like, I thought we had a good thing going. You sort of alienate yourself even more by throwing a vote on someone else. But I don't know, it's hard.
I feel like it's one of those things where you have to strategize around it the way you strategize around idols. So maybe like if you're Jonathan, you go to someone and are like, hey, I know that we're voting for Maryanne, but I also want to talk to you about or voting for Marya, sorry. But I also want to talk to you about like what happens if she plays her shot in the dark. Because I feel like people are like, oh, we just have to keep them comfortable, but don't actually talk about like, okay, if this person does get shot in the dark, this is what we're going to do. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see if people are going to start splitting the votes for the shot in the dark. Maybe they were thinking, hey, this is a new thing. The people on 42 haven't seen it yet. So they're thinking, hey, they're not going to do it. But now that 2 teams have seen the shot in the dark play out, maybe they're going to start splitting votes around the shot in the dark. But it's like on a 5-person team now to put votes on 2 of your members, like you're going to super alienate someone, and it could cause animosity. It could make the vote flip on you next week if people get pissed off, like, why do you keep writing my name down as like a backup vote? Like, they're going to know they're at the bottom of the totem pole if they're always the backup vote. So I don't know, it's so tricky on such a small team.
I think it's one of those things though where like the more people that play the shot in the dark, the more likely it is that someone is going to be successful, you know? Like last season, there was only a 1 in 6 chance because only one person played it once. But like as more and more people are playing shot in the dark, the higher the chances that one of them is going to succeed. And so maybe you do risk alienating someone for the chance that you don't go home next time. So, or maybe you try and make 2 people feel unsafe so that they both play their shot in the dark, and so you're flushing out more of them since people only get 1 shot in the dark in the game.
All 6 people play shot in the dark. Ha ha ha. Well, I guess, okay, are you saying it's more likely, just like statistically, if this thing keeps happening, it's bound to work at some point in another? Because I guess I was under the assumption like it's a 1 in 6 chance every time. So technically, I guess the percent chance of you getting it would technically not increase because it's always 1 in 6. It doesn't go to like 1 in 5 next time because Marya used it.
Yeah, it doesn't. But then it's like 1 in 6 times however many is more than like 1 in 6 times 1, you know?
Yeah. I guess it makes sense. Is that the law of averages? Law of averages, the principle that supposes most future events are likely to balance any past deviation. No, that's not it. Do you know that what the law is for what you're saying?
No, I haven't taken a math class for like 3 years now, so
Alas, I guess we'll figure it out. But also, I feel like, I don't know if that's fake math. I feel like in my stats classes, they said that in probability, like, it doesn't gain more chance of being correct after a longer time.
well, it's one of those things where like if you're the sixth person to play the shot in the dark and everyone else has failed, that doesn't mean that you're like 100% going to get the shot in the dark. Like your chances still don't improve over 1 in 6, but the overall chances of someone getting it, like because like if you flip a coin 100 times, each individual flip still only has a 10% chance of or 10%, a 50% chance of being heads or tails. But if you flip a coin 100 times and none of them are heads, that's, statistically very unlikely.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like the more times you do it, it's not like quote, more likely that it'll happen, but we'll more likely see it. I don't
Yeah.
know. It could just never happen, but I want to see someone get safety because it would be fun to see like people have to strategize around a revote, or if people did throw a vote on someone else to split the votes, like someone needs to get the safety parchment so we can see those shocked faces.
I think it would be most fun if the person who got the safety eventually wasn't even someone who had to be worried.
Oh,
that's just
so they played it incorrectly.
Yes.
Oh gosh. That'd be such like a kick in the face for the people that like Zach or Marya who actually needed it and then they didn't get it, and then the person that played it wrong got it. But that's how that 1 in 6 chance goes,
Yeah.
You need
So
gotta be super lucky. You gotta start like getting all of your 4-leaf clovers together and your pennies and stuff to increase your luck.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm excited for next week. The preview looks fun. Mike losing that idol again, potentially Maryanne finding an idol. The challenge looks very hardcore, potentially like stopping the challenge, which those swimming challenges, Alyssa, we've talked about with like Survivor South Africa. And if what the preview shows is going to happen next week is what happens, like very similar to Survivor South Africa, where like in South Africa, like they had swimming challenges with a rough current and like production didn't step in to help them.
And we thought that they should have. So yeah. I think definitely something to keep an eye on, just because that could potentially very much change the challenge.
Yeah. So excited for next week. Alyssa, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Remember, guys, if you go on to Survivor, you should not just randomly start telling people about an idol just to like gain favor or gain allies. So, yeah, that's my final thought.
Yeah, let us know in the comments your thoughts on this episode. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Should people be telling other people about their advantages? Yes or no? Your thoughts on Maryanne not getting voted out and Marya getting voted out there, and Marya playing the shot in the dark. Yes, like she should have played it. Would have been cool to see if someone got a safety one coming up. So I guess we'll see in the next few weeks if someone gets a safety shot in the dark. Yay.
And we will see you guys next week with another